Mr Speaker, for this time to support this kaupapa. Kia ora.
5-minute call, Alastair Scott.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I am surprised slightly that I also agree with much of what the previous speaker has spoken of, in principle at least. I was going to mention that I thought he'd have the confidence and mana to contribute to the committee, despite Mr Brownlee's expertise and experience. So I'm sure he will contribute more going forward. Mr Speaker, I do want to agree alongside the previous speakers and just clarify for the benefit of the Greens, and I'm sure no matter what I say, it won't make any difference to their philosophy. And that is, free trade is a good thing. Free trade is a good thing for both parties. Free trade is a win-win situation. Free trade allows people to contribute, to focus on what they are good at and trade their expertise or their products with each other freely. So the fisherman can focus on the fishing and the farmer can focus on the farming. And the benefit, of course, is that they can have a balanced diet. But if there are barriers in trade, barriers and tariffs in place, one can only eat fish and the other can only eat red meat. And that is not a good thing, Mr Speaker. So I really want to emphasise the benefits of free trade agreements to the Green Party. And this, I'd also like to agree particularly with Minister Seo when he talked about the benefits of this agreement being a stepping stone, another stepping stone in closer trade agreement and free flow of people and goods and services between particularly this country, New Zealand, and the Pacific Island nations. Because I think, I agree with the Minister, that there is a huge potential, 400,000, I think the number was talked about. Whatever is good for the islands is good for New Zealand, and I absolutely agree with that sentiment. There's the unlimited or the untapped potential, I agree, in the point that we can see the benefits of the Chinese free trade agreement that we've had with China for a number of years. And we've seen a huge increase in trade between those two countries, and a lot of that has to do with the New Zealand Chinese community. Here, based here, with connections back home, back to their cousins, back to their whānau. And I think that this agreement will contribute to better, more trade, more communication, more the free flow of trade and services between New Zealand and the islands. And I think that is a potential yet to be realised. So the free trade agreement is part of it. The other part of it is the facilitation by using the aid money that's dedicated to aid to not be used as a handout, just but more as a facilitator, to be invested in trade facilitation, to give people the education to allow market access. Market access is a huge part of that. Labour mobility, a huge part of that. Increasing the knowledge and capability of those small and medium-sized businesses in the Pacific is a huge part of that. So that is a very useful and productive and constructive use of what is termed aid, in my view. So two parts to the agreement, both very, very good, very positive, and I look forward to both and all parties of the agreement benefiting from it.
I call Dr. Duncan Webb.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. This is not